Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hangoutlander. This is episode 509. Monsters and Heroes. We're here talking about Outlander on Stars. This is the 5th season, the 9th episode. It is all about Jamie Fraser getting bitten by a snake. And we've been awaiting this one. It's been, we've known it's coming. And it didn't, from what we've read, you guys were not disappointed. We might have a different feeling about it, but that's what Hangoutlander is for. You're here to get all the hot guys on how we feel about Outlander. So if this is your first time ever tuning in, I know that there are some people out there that just texted me or DM'd me on Twitter recently this week that they just found Hangoutlander. I don't know how that happened, but if you just found Hangoutlander, welcome. Hi. If this is your first time watching live, I'm very excited that you're here. But you guys, there is an entire back catalog of Hangoutlanders for you. Our former home, That's Normal, started with season 1, episode 1, and you can go all the way through and watch the ridiculousness, and you'll hear like some old good fandom gossip going on if you go all the way back. So like, enjoy. I am Beth. I'm the host of Hangoutlander, and I'm so glad that you're here with us at the cool table. Say hello to my girls. This is Karen and Julie. Say hi, ladies.
Hi. Hey.
Hey to Marina, this is your first time catching it live. Amanda, Heidi, Nadine, Amy, Dawn, got Brett, got a lot of people up in the live chat. Thank you guys for joining. Courtney's with us now. Guys, let's talk 509. First impressions or final impression after you watch the episode for the first time?
Like a door closing.
I wasn't offended by anything in this episode, which I think is a great start.
I was annoyed by one big thing.
Yeah.
And then, but other than that, if, yeah.
It was like,
it was just kind of there. I mean,
yeah.
It wasn't terrible. It wasn't awesome. I mean, I'll watch it again. It was true to the story, which I loved, and it's some of my favorite arcs in the books. Again, I think they tried to cram a lot of elements into the 60 minutes, but it was a billion times better than last week. But it wasn't one of those episodes where I was just like, ugh. I mean, there were a few moments with Claire where I was just like my heart was like. Was great for her. But it didn't offend me, but it didn't really move me either.
Right. It was just there. It was an episode that was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess is a victory in some ways.
Yeah. Right. It's better than last week, as Brett just said. Purely News called it a mixed bag, but better than last week. When you guys, after I watched the screener, I think you guys were like, how was it? And I was like, my text was like, it was fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. It was fine. I was like, oh.
And Alicia put, I thought it was a good episode, not a great episode, maybe because last week was so shitty. So right now I'm wondering if just all of our bars are just a little low right now. So anything like 5 minutes finding maggots is going to be better than a silent film.
Yeah. And the thing is Michelle just asked, is this the episode DG wrote? No, she wrote 11, the penultimate episode, which I'm looking forward to. The thing is that I think the full kind of scope of this episode was right. It should have been the snake bite and the buffalo charging and him being healed. Those things all fit together in an episode. But and the fact that the episode kind of encapsulated the family dynamics of what's going on with all of the Frasers on the ridge. Good choices. It's good that Ian was there because he was able to bring in a second, another part of the family dynamic that was important to this story. So there were things about it that I truly liked. And I liked the fact that the entire episode was revolving around Jamie and Claire, or Jamie and Claire's relationship, and how everybody relates to either Jamie or Claire. So how Rogers relates to Jamie, how Bree relates to Claire, how Marsley relates to Claire, and how Fergus and Ian relate to Jamie, and then how all of them relate to one another based on Jamie and Claire's love. So that kind of structure I think is good. But in terms of how they write drama and create tension, they just make bad choices.
Right. It becomes melodramatic in certain moments where it just is, the tension isn't where, and the tension's not even in the book. They put tension where it doesn't need to be.
So let's that one of those that's hugely glaringly obvious is the maggots.
Mm-hmm.
How is it even remotely exciting or tense or suspenseful for everybody on the ridge to be looking for maggots under the same 4 logs for half the episode?
Right.
Why?
And so many people were looking for it. Like, they stopped the production of the ridge to go look for maggots.
Yeah, that was an odd choice. It was weird because were they trying to show how many people cared and loved him and how much was at stake that all of these people came out to help with it? But yeah, it lacked something. I don't know what it was. It just was kind of like, okay.
Well, there's no stakes to the maggots.
Where to get them. You didn't need people with axes and not dead logs.
They could have gone out to the trash heap. Like, they had the white sow. Go find the white sow. Whatever she's eating is going to have maggots on it. Put out a piece of meat, and tomorrow there'll be maggots on it.
Right. Yeah. There was many ways to go get it where they could have focused more on character and character development. And everybody is saying we needed more Fergus and Marcelly and her birth and that's what, I thought we were going to get a lot more when I saw that scene. I'm like, oh, here we go. And it was all of a sudden, there's Marcelly's baby.
Yeah.
But yet another grandchild birth with Claire not there.
Not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least grandparent right there. I was like,
at least she said, I'm sad I missed it.
It was kind of a weird choice, but I was so glad to get more Fergus.
Oh,
I thought that his scene was so perfect.
Oh,
yeah.
And it was
a little bit of whispering. I mean, he knew exactly what Ian was talking about. I thought he was just pitch perfect.
And there's this point where he just smiles and goes, oh, you don't think he wants to see him? Okay. It's not over dramatic. It's not, it's not overly done. It's just this, all right, well, let me tell you what I told him.
He was
I'm a man of leisure now. That's our joke. And that was it. It was perfect.
Caesar doesn't have, Cesar, whatever, however says him. He doesn't have the overwrought type of acting.
No. So natural
that somebody else does. And I think that part of that is because he's underutilized. And so when he does get screen time, it's way more natural.
Right.
And everybody else, they get so much screen time that almost everything becomes a point they have to make. I don't know why that is. I don't know why some of them aren't more natural all the time, but I just think if they wanted to show tension, or if they wanted to show everybody on the ridge kind of rallying around Jamie, it felt to me like the book does a really good job of that. Jamie, like in this section, Jamie has them open the window so that he can hear everybody outside, like talking and butchering the buffalo and doing all of that. Mrs. Bug is running around doing certain things. Marcelly's doing other things. They're wiping his brow, and this point where Claire is about to amputate his leg in the surgery, and the only person there is Ian, and she says, where is everybody? In the book, everybody is there. Everybody is around.
Right. That's how they show respect to him, is they continue the ridge. That's how you respect James Fraser.
And so everybody's there with him, and that is the familial kind of coalescing around helping Jamie live and survive. And in this one, they all leave and just go find maggots. And I've never been more bored. That was just an unbelievably boring way to show any kind of tension. The maggots weren't even doing anything, really.
Right.
So it's just a weird tension choice.
Right. And that's not even what saves Jamie in the end. The maggots it's like almost like a MacGuffin. Like, well, we got to find these so they can eat the flesh. That should have taken like 30 seconds. Like, we found them. Here they are.
It should have been one thing of many.
They should have had them. Yeah.
It should have been one thing of many that they were doing to help Jamie kind of get over the fever or do different things. I mean, she should have given orders out, go do this and go do this. And why didn't she have Josiah and Ken and Kezi or whatever go get another snake? Why didn't they have the men go?
Because they were getting busy with Lizzie.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many other things. She could have just told Lizzie, make sure you watch the kids and, you go do this and you go do that and you make this kind of tea. like, why didn't she go into drill sergeant mode? It just, everything felt very slow. Even when he came in, I remembered in the very first episode of the second episode where there's the man who comes in that she ends up doing the autopsy on. And he comes in and she just kind of looks at him and she's like, I'm like, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. And the guy dies 15 seconds later. When the guys find Jamie in the woods, they find Roger and Jamie and they bring them back. We aren't subjected to the Jamie being brought in and Claire seeing him on this sled or whatever and being brought into the surgery and her trying to figure out what's going on and her hearing what happened and going through all the motions of what she needs to do. We're subjected to this, well, I've never seen anything like this before, kind of very calm, very, very stoic. She's already made the diagnosis, and all of the tension and all of the energy, the kinetic energy that would have been there had we had the scene where he was brought in is gone.
Right.
And she never seems overly, she's never energized into getting him well. And that felt very odd. If he was really, really suffering, I felt like, not that she would have to have been harried or, frantic, but I felt like there should have been a kind of more like of a drill sergeant. This is what we're doing right now. We're going to do this, this, and this, and everything just felt very slow. Like she was allowing his body to burn off the venom. And I was like, do something else,
and she did do something else later on.
I'm not talking about that yet. No.
But
if we could go back to just backtrack just a minute before he even gets to the house, am I the only one that thought that Roger's indifference to Jamie's suffering was weird? Like, I get that Roger's like, hey, pal, we both read the newspaper article. We know you die in a fire. Calm the F down. We know you're not going to die. But Jamie is suffering. He is sick. He is starting to realize that he's going to hallucinate. And I mean, in the middle of the night, he's like, I'm not going to live. I'm not going to make it. And Roger's just, chill out, pal. You're going to live. I just thought that was so weird. Maybe it was shock, but, and Rick, I thought got really good in the second half of the episode, but I just thought that was a really weird choice.
I actually read that differently. I thought it was him just being like, I have to stay calm. Like, okay, all right, you're going to be fine. You're not going to die. It's almost like, when somebody is going to die, trying to like talk to them, you're like, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. But it's more about, it's for yourself, calming yourself down than appeasing them. Like you're going to get better.
I read it like Karen did. I felt like he thought it wasn't going to happen. Like the historian in him was, and like when Jamie calls him professor or whatever, like the historian in him was like, you're good. You're going to die this day, which is the whole reason they went back is to keep him from dying. So like, none of that makes sense either. But Purely Muse just had that great point that the writers don't know anything about Roger. Every week he's a different character, which brings me to one of my the very first note I made when I watched this episode was Roger can speak perfectly well. His voice is fully back.
At the end of the last episode, I said, miraculously, his voice is already healed. Like by the time he goes to talk to Bree in the cabin, he's fine.
Yeah. It has a full conversation, and it's a regular volume, healthy volume until you find then they're reminded, he can't speak when he yells.
Yeah.
But I completely forgot.
Alicia just said, I actually thought Roger was trying to show Jamie that he could man up and be the rational guy in a desperate situation. That's a valid interpretation of it. I still felt like it was really weird. Andrea said his prayer over Jamie showed his inner angst. I thought the prayer was really good. A good moment for him and a moment for both of them.
Right.
In the book, Roger and Jamie have this long discussion about predestination and can the future be changed, which would have been great. But I think that there's a lot that they talk about. And I think the important thing that they're trying to get at plot wise is Bonnet and what Roger's going to have to do for that. So there's just like a lot going on in the woods with Roger and Jamie. The thing that I took away from it watching it was that I feel like we have finally moved over the hump of Roger just kind of being sad that he's not Jamie or that Jamie doesn't like him or whatever. I was really, really sick of that choice and sick of that arc. And I just am glad we're not going to see it anymore. Hopefully not going to see it anymore. Sharon just said, I'm thinking that as an actor, Rick can't speak in a hoarse voice all the time without damaging his real voice. Yeah, that's probably true. There is a little bit of, you can't growl all the time without actually hurting your vocal cords.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It just seems weird that there's nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they did it at the end of last season.
Nothing. There's nothing of him laying there in the middle of the night, seeing his father-in-law suffering and not thinking back to his own suffering.
Right.
His own recovery. There's no, I mean, I know they don't have time for that sometimes, but even just like a 2 or 3 second something would connect them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But we couldn't. We had to get to the maggots.
Yeah.
We had to get to the maggots, and we had to get to some weird time hop where Claire walks out of the surgery and it's like literally bright sunny. And then when she comes back in, I don't know, seemingly hours later, Jamie's gone. Where the hell?
I saw the same thing. I was like, it's nighttime. How long were you outside that he got to a bed, laid down in it?
Hear this happening. I mean, I was like, that's a weird continuity comment.
Speaking about continuity, the other thing too, and it's the sense that, once they do bring him back, and we got to look for maggots. Roger and Bree are looking for maggots.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, Bree's back at Fraser's Ridge and gets bucked by a buffalo, which we can talk about later. But so continuity-wise, there's just some time elements that I was like, okay, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that doesn't fully gel in this episode in terms of like, did Jamie hit that buffalo? And if he did, is that the buffalo that ends up in their paddock?
Pissed off.
Which is where they should have gotten the maggots from, right? But there's just a lot that doesn't like fully make a whole lot of sense. They've never seen a buffalo before, and yet all of a sudden one comes walking up, and it should have had a little bit more meat to it. So, and Jeanette just said in the book it is. Yeah, I know. Yeah, like in the book, it's the buffalo that he shot, and that's why it's so near, and it comes smelling food and all of that kind of stuff, and that makes perfect sense. Right. And in this one, it makes less sense. It's just the thing that they did because they needed to do it instead of being the thing that makes sense and all of that. Let's talk for a minute about why Roger and Jamie are getting so much time. And Bree and Jamie are not. What do we think about that? Carly just mentioned that.
Have more to go. I wasn't crazy about how Brianna just answered the door with her blanket around her naked body. Like, hi, Da, what's going on, Da? Kind of like this weird attitude she had.
Why would we just say, we can't come to the door right now? Hold on just a minute.
Can you give us a second? Giving her enough time to put on a shift or something like that. Like, it didn't have to be a full outfit.
Yeah.
But I was like, are you trying to prove to your dad that Roger's a man because he boned you? Like, or was about to? So I'm like,
yeah,
that was weird.
I like the dynamic of your dad coming to the door and like just wanting to, get the day started, and you're like lazing in bed and you're naked in bed, and that dynamic is funny to me. I think that Jamie's reaction when he sees Roger is humorous. I think there could have been a little bit more. It would have been better if Bree had been a little bit more abashed.
Yeah.
Like, why is she not embarrassed at all?
Right.
And it is a funny moment, and it's funny because he's asking Bree to go shooting with them, and he ends up with Roger, and it's not bad. It's just
That's actually what the focus for me should have been, was Jamie trying to ask Bree, "Hey, you want to go shooting?" That's what the focus. And instead, I got, well, Bree's clearly okay with a guy that she's only known as her dad for how many years from this point? She's okay with answering the door half naked. I am a certain age now, and if my dad came to my door, first of all, I'd be screaming out, "Hold on, Nick," because that's my dad's name. Hold on. And then I'd be like, I would cover everything up and be like, "Hi, we're all ready." I would never. Oh God, no. And I'm close to my dad. No.
Well, anyway, I think we've all had a similar experience, whether it's a boyfriend or a husband. Kids know, parents know, everyone knows.
Right.
But there's just not enough Bree and Jamie in this season, or any season really at all, to make it as a fun scene as it should have been. They don't have a relationship. This particular episode is the first time I've seen them, like, he kisses her hand at some point, and he tells Roger, tell Bree that I'm glad of her, which is a line straight from the book. But it's one of those things where it just reminded me again and again. I mean, he does the thing where he comes off to the porch to, he hears all the commotion with the buffalo and he's coming to the porch to try to save. But there's just something missing, and their relationship for some reason has been really truncated. And then he's got these long scenes with Roger.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why all of that's missing.
Well,
I think it's just the focus on trying to make Roger feel more confident as a man in this time period. And I think if that's what the writers are going for, okay, hopefully this took care of it.
A show about 4 characters, when actually it's really about 3 characters, one of whom is married to Roger.
Yes. That's it. Maria can just I feel like they're focusing too much on trying to repair Roger's fragile masculinity. So they sacrifice all of the cool Bree and Jamie moments.
Yeah. And they gave Jamie this retcon moment where he says, even though I was upset with you for not coming back right away, which is not, I don't think, something he says directly in the book, and is fully letting the audience forgive Roger. He's the final nail in that coffin of forgiving Roger for not being there for Bree right away. What are you laughing at?
Heidi just pointed out, Karen, you can't film thoughts.
Can't film a thought. Can't do it.
I think I've said this too many times already, but you cannot film a thought.
Of course not. How could you possibly?
How could you? It's a visual medium. How could you possibly do that?
Little thought bubbles might work.
Yeah, it could be pop-up video. You wouldn't have to film it. You could just do a static face and have the pop-up video bubble. But only in silent movie like font.
Yes, it can only be in silent movie. Hey, you know what? At least we didn't get like some musical theater moment, like where Jamie hallucinates and like sees cats or something. And I mean the musical Cats. Yeah. So just be thankful, everybody.
It was possible. It was going to happen. I did like the moment. There's a lot of Jamie humor in this episode. And so I was really happy with that. Almost all of it comes directly from Diana's dialogue. Yes. I can't think of anything that he said that wasn't something that he said in the book. And one of my favorites was just when Roger recites the verse from Matthew about the millstones around their neck and says it's verse 3, and Jamie goes, it's verse 6.
Yeah,
that was great. And got better as the episode went along.
Jamie
I was
like
in the first like 10 minutes, I even texted Beth and I was like, Sam's kind of boring in this episode. I mean, he's Jamie, but it was just kind of like, and then he got better and better and better. When Sam's voice drops, that's when he's the best. When it's the growly, I'm sick, wheezy. I thought he was actually really good.
Right. I loved it when he said to Claire, like, I know when I'm in trouble because when you are being kind to me, I know I'm about to die. And that was straight from the book. And I loved that.
Yeah, or like, you need to work on your bedside manner, Sassenach. That's like such a good line.
The quick, like, yeah, I like that.
But that's the thing too. Is like, when everybody first saw the episode, and I was like, yes, they stuck to the book, and that's why it works so well. It does. It always works better when they stick to the book. But even this one sticks to the book in dialogue and in things that happen, and still you have to adapt it in ways that make sense. So much of the tension is strange and weird. Even Jamie asking to go to his bed, like the import of that was really lost. Like he tells Claire, I didn't want you to sleep on this, in the surgery on the floor or whatever. But the real reason is because he was ready to die and he wanted to die in his bed with her laying next to him. Right. And the import of that was fully gone And I thought, how could they have made this bad? How could they have made this? Jamie Fraser is willing to die, and he wants to die in his own bed, and he thinks he's going to, and he's going to try to hide it from his wife, but it's still going to happen. How did they make that story less tense than it should have been? I couldn't believe it, that it just kind of deflated, at least in that way. But of course, the characters are there, and they're saying what they need to say, and it's made for some beautiful GIF moments, and really sweet stills that we'll get to look at forever. But there's still the episode as a whole just is like lacking forward movement. It just felt, it's got this one story. Jamie gets bitten by a snake and they're trying to save him, and yet it still doesn't coalesce in something that's really, captivating. It's just not.
And that's just goes to show me that, or I think a lot of us, that they don't know where the tension should lie. There's so many things going on. They don't know where the tension should lie. And so that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And they don't know where the heart should lie sometimes.
It's funny because I think that the actors do. And I think that they try to put as much of that into their performance as possible. And it has to supersede what's been written, or supersede the way that it's been edited, or supersede the way that it's been adapted. And so that's why you get a really good scene with Claire and Jamie together, because Katrina and Sam really know those characters, but it has to, it's sandwiched between things that don't make a whole lot of sense for those characters to have done. Like Claire walks in when Jamie's in the bedroom, and the bedroom is too opulent. Where did they get that deep teal color, Benjamin Moore colonial teal?
That's what I was thinking. At one point, Brianna was wearing a striped shirt.
I saw the striped shirt.
How did they dye that?
They're dyeing fabric, and she's got on a tiny stripes.
I'm like, how did they do that? Just little dipping it every they would wait for it to dry.
Oh, it wasn't woven.
It wasn't. It looked dyed, and I went, I don't get this.
No,
I don't get this.
No,
I think the biggest grievance that I had, if we're going to air some grievances, I think it's the house is opulent. It's a mansion, but I'm sorry, there's no way they share a twin size bed. There's just no way. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm a California cow, and I know that Jamie and Claire love each other, but at some point one of them was going, "Stop breathing on me." And the twin size bed is no.
I think it was a double. It looked like a double to me.
Okay, he's the king of men. He's 6'5". She's 5'10". Come on, they're not getting double.
It just the whole thing is dumb, and it takes me out of the scenes to see all of this opulence, those brass door handles, and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
And it's silly. They have plants, just flowers on the porch, it's Southern living.
Well, no, when she's making the onion concoction, I kept on looking at her fresh cut flowers in the vase, and I'm like,
who's got time for that? Nobody got time for that.
But who's doing that right now? Really? Yeah. Nobody's doing that right now.
No.
Yeah. It's a lot to suspend your disbelief. So it's sandwiched in between things like that. So when Claire walks into that bedroom, I'm struck by the opulence, but also she just says, "What the hell is going on here?" Mm-hmm. And Roger's just like, "I think I'm gonna leave." And it was just this flat.
Yeah. It was so weird.
The poor guy's having, he's got a freaking fever. You take off and leave. You're probably the one to be like, he wants to come here. Claire, figure it out.
It just felt like she should have been more mad, or Roger should have been more trying to tell her what was up, or something else should have been happening. But then you get this really great scene with Jamie and Claire. So it's just a weird show to watch.
So what happens, what I've noticed with this show is that it does that. It will make me go, stop it. And at the same time, make me go, okay, not that all is forgiven, but all right. Because that was a great exchange between the two of them. I just wish it could be more.
Yeah.
And that's the issue that I have with this show.
Ashley just said they've given up on trying to make things appear true to the time. Yeah. The grit and dirt from the first 2 seasons is gone.
Yeah.
There's just not a whole lot going on.
When she's like, what's going on? You were literally right outside the door. Did you not hear two men grabbing your husband and dragging him across? Like
grunting. There was a lot of grunting and sighing and whispering.
And then Ian went off on him.
Yeah.
Like he yelled at him.
I actually really liked that. I was like, stop. It was essentially stop being a bitch. Stop it. Like
you're being a big asshole. Like,
he was a total whiny little bitch.
He was. He's like, my dad.
I mean, I get it.
Like, you don't want to lose your leg. My dad lost his leg. Fergus lost his hand. Stop being a bitch.
Yeah.
Live without a leg.
Ian's speech was one of the better. It was probably the best adaptation from the book that went into the show. The fact that he was there for this, and the fact that they used how he would feel about his father and Jamie, and even the fact that he said there have been times where I was ashamed that I wished you were my dad, and now, I'm ashamed of you. And so even that was just a really, really great addition. It was perfectly suited to the thing. And I really think that Ian going off on him is the catalyst that gets Jamie to stop giving Claire or this very impossible choice, which is very heartbreaking to make her have to choose. And I do think that the best scene for Katrina was not the mystical handjob scene, but was the scene on the stairs with Brianna.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Just really, really well done on her part.
Right. It was like, I think what any doctor will tell you they go through, it's that I can't do it. I can't, I'm human. Ultimately, I'm human. I can't rescue everyone. I can't save one. I can't save the person I love. I don't know what to do. Yeah. I'm scared. And it came out and it was beautifully acted. It was right on point. I loved it. If they are to submit for Emmys next year, that's the scene right there. Submit that right there. Because that was a great, great moment between the two of them too. And I love that she had it with Brie. Yeah. I loved that she had that.
Yeah, their relationship feels very real to me. It feels very honest. It feels very rooted in the way mothers and daughters interact with one another. Even just things that sometimes they do on the show that I don't like with other characters, but she does with Brie. Like when she touches her cheek, and oh my gosh, I touch my kids' cheeks all the time. It's my favorite part of their face, and I'm like constantly like, come here, and then I kiss it, and then I just rub my face on it. It's like because it like harbors all of their babiness. It's still super, super soft and chubby, and all of their scent is right there. And I'm just like, I just love it. It's very, very motherly to just kind of like brush their cheeks. I do that constantly, so I like that. Shut up, Ryan. Ryan's making fun of me. Thinks that was the dorkiest thing I've ever said. That's true.
Well, if truth be told, never mind. I love that scene. I loved it. I thought they were both great. I think your phrase, it was an impossible choice, is absolutely spot on, because Jamie has celebrated her oath, her Hippocratic oath. Mm-hmm. He sees her as a warrior because through their entire relationship, she talks about this oath that caregivers take to save the patient, first do no harm, all of that. And he likens it to being a laird or to being a warrior. And he sees her as an equal because of that. And he's so delirious with pain and vanity that he asks her to break her oath and make another oath to him. How confusing must that have been for both of them, actually? And in hindsight, I think he's quite sheepish about it. He releases Roger from the oath. He recognizes that he has asked for some impossible things when he maybe wasn't thinking clearly, and that he was actually being really selfish, where he thought he was being a leader and he was being noble, but he was actually thinking of himself because he was on, the path to dying. And I think that, when she comes back, she calls him on it when she's sitting on the bed with him. And she was like, you chose to die. And that conversation is not about whether he's in pain. I don't think that conversation is necessarily about, him about to die. I think she's calling him to the carpet on, you did a lot of really questionable things while you were spiraling, and it cost a lot of us a lot. We're in this together here, pal. So I think that the stair scene and when she came back to the bed and confronted him, I think that those two scenes together were actually her best acting in the entire episode.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think that the choice is made even more difficult by the fact that if she did do what needed to be done, which would have been obviously to take his leg off. Obviously, he needs to be alive and not dead. And that makes, is far more important. She's not just risking that she breaks his word to him or that he's going to be upset with her every time he looks down, but like literally risking that he may not love her anymore. Like there's an entire like the wedge of her choosing to do that outside of his wishes could be the thing that would stop him from loving her. And then there's a bigger, there's an even bigger divide or an even bigger fear than I think she's prepared to deal with, because that's something she's never really had to worry about. She never had to think, is he not going to love me after this or whatever?
Right.
Yeah.
Or at least not in a long time. I don't know, maybe King Louis, maybe that was a moment where she thought he may not love her anymore. I can't remember if she's ever really been worried about that before.
Well, the King Louis thing, I reread some of that section. Actually, it popped up on my Kindle app recently. If I remember correctly from that arc, she does it to pay a debt. She does it to free him, but she does it to spite him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually thinks about that. And when she's later, she goes, King Louis closed the door, and as I walked out of the palace, so did I, or something like that, right? And it closes the chapter. But before the door closes for her, she talks about the payment made. And she did it out of spite, too. She did it to make Jamie pay. Anyway, just odd that my Kindle opened up into that section.
Huh.
I always remember from that part, like where Jamie smelled lavender and he would have a visceral reaction. She said whenever she smelled rose water.
Yeah.
And she was like, damn you, Jamie Fraser.
That DG, she's a pretty good writer,
It sucks, man. Damn it.
She weaves a good yarn. Not sure if anybody else is aware, anybody associated with the show is aware of that.
I was going to say, I think some people associated with the show need to be reminded of that.
There's some good source material there, folks.
There it is.
Jamie, if I can't be a two-legged lair, then me die. Okay.
Yeah, then let me die. And that was the thing. It was, I do like what Angela has said. Don't agree that he was being selfish. I think he sees his value as being the one everyone else can depend upon and be protected by. And wouldn't be able to do that without that leg. And that's a great way of looking at it too.
My daughter just brought me a brownie.
Oh, he's redeemed himself. Julie, isn't that the point though of Ian coming back and saying, "You think my father is less than that?"
That's exactly it. It was and that's where I think he had to set him straight, like where Ian set him straight. It was the sense of do you not remember my dad? But it's funny where I think that also says that we can look at others. We can look at others and go, oh, you're being strong. But when it happens to us, it's like, nope, can't happen to us. Can't happen to me. Nope. We tend to forget. It's easier said than done for some of us.
I think there's a lot going on in his decision. I mean, there's fear, there's the hubris, there's vanity, there's a little bit of selfishness going on. So there's a lot going on in why he's choosing to make that decision. And then he says, like, I'll be delirious with fever later. I want to make this choice when I still have my wits about me. And I don't think that he necessarily had all of his wits about him.
Right.
I also don't think that Claire should have had the saw out. You're not using it
there. I was like, dun, dun, dun.
Oh, there was a lot of things.
75 cabinets. Put it in one of the cabinets that you have.
There was a lot of things Claire did in this episode that I'm like, your medical training did not come through, ma'am.
Correct.
There was a lot. So
speaking of medical training, the syringe, I really wish I get that they felt like they needed the moment where Claire's going to take his leg off and Bree comes busting in with the syringe, but it's the next morning. Bree's been working on it for a while, and wouldn't have just been, it would have been that hard for them to have known that she was working on this syringe. Was the tension of that moment so great? I mean, I liked Claire's handshaking and all of that, but still.
Right. That was great. That was neat.
Hang on a second. Okay, first of all, I'm no doctor. That is well established. I don't like needles. That is also well established. But I would like to point out that she shoved that needle that's about that big into the heart of the wound. I'm sorry. Can't you just take a spoon and shove it, all that liquid into the wound? I mean,
I didn't understand that at all.
It made no sense to me at all.
Right.
I read somebody say that you need the pump or whatever, like the pressure of it to
go into
the stream.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that. But then wouldn't you do it like in?
I think the closer that it is to the wound, the more good it can do to the infection. So it didn't make no sense to me, but I also felt like she probably should have, for good measure, gone into like his leg artery or something.
Yeah. It looked like I looked like she barely touched the wound. It was like squeezy. I did it. I didn't want to touch it.
I wanted to make a joke about putting it in his ass, because that would have just been perfect Jamie, right? But you're not going to ask me to roll over. I mean, something like that. I just would have been
perfect. Then ended up making at least I'm not putting a syringe up your butt, like something like that. I actually wasn't really crazy about her during this. I did like her holding her hand, kind of like showing like the nerves that she had.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that was like, she was like, brace yourself.
We're going to need more than one man.
Right. Yeah. Like, brace yourself. Here we go.
Yeah. Ayana just said her brace yourself was dumb because he was already braced to lose his leg.
He was already ready. He was looking at his toes the whole damn time. Like, bye. See you, right leg.
It did not work for me at all. Lack of tension. I mean, it was just weird. Yeah. It just didn't work for me. And then it was like a total Scooby-Doo moment when the game runs in with
look what I discovered, Ma, with a
And it also felt weird that she had said, what would you, or Roger had said, what would you do in your time for this? And he said, antivenom. And yet the thing that's going to save him is not any kind of antivenom. It's penicillin. And I realized that apparently the venom is not what's causing the problem. It's the infection, but also why?
Right.
And it seems like what happened to him after Culloden, when Jenny just kind of digs a trench in his leg and pours boiling water in it or whatever to deal with the infection that he has after Culloden, his leg wound.
Yeah.
It seems like Claire would have been far more willing to kind of cut a chunk of his leg out doing something like that with boiling penicillin broth than just to cut his leg off. It just seems like there were other ways to go about getting rid of an infection in his blood that she has employed in the past.
Well, or that Jenny has employed. Remember when he had the machete thing after Culloden?
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Right? Come on.
It was just a very off scene. The tension wasn't there. There was a lot of like, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Kathy just said muscles have a lot of blood supply and can hold medication, and this is why it's put into a muscle.
Okay.
Then why did they choose the wound and not the muscle around?
That's what I was like. Once again, it looked like they just put the venom into, or excuse me, the syringe, the created syringe, just on top of, and just like, it's fine. There it is. Squeezy. That's it. So anyway, it wasn't the scene, I think, just lacked that. And I think it, for, a lot of people are saying it lacked that Jamie's last words where he end up crying. He ended up crying in the scene, and, it all just came to him. I just,
Jody wants to know if we are going to explain the mystical handjob. So if you've read the book, you know that there's this moment where
have the moment.
Do you?
I found it because I was like, God dang it, not again. That's what
I went back and watched our book club about this part of the book, and we did not talk about this for very long.
No, because it's not a big deal. It's not this big moment.
Yeah, real quick, Mary Lou just wondered why the buffalo wandered into their yard. It was supposed to be the buffalo that Jamie wounded when he shot at it, but they did not make that clear in the show.
No. What they did make clear with the buffalo scene, though, was that Bree is superhuman and could be bucked into the air by a buffalo, land really hard, not be injured, and not have Claire give a flying shit.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that they'd had her get hit by the buffalo like that. That was really
There was no need for it.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
Claire could have shot the buffalo going after Jemmy. I mean, there was no need for that interlude. It served no purpose at all.
And Lachey, I'm just going to say this really quickly. You posted somebody's retweet with a gif of her getting bucked by the buffalo. I've laughed a few times more than I'm proud to admit.
Yeah. And yeah, there's Marina just asked, doesn't Brie go ham when an axe with the buffalo? She slits its throat because it doesn't die immediately just from the shot. Obviously, it's a huge animal.
Right.
And Brie has to come at it. And they actually filmed that. It just didn't make it into the episode. So it was funny to me that the whole buffalo scene, there's just like so much missing. It wasn't really necessary. They didn't use it for healing Jamie, which they could have because the wound should have had maggots in it, and they didn't do that. And so it was just this extra interlude, which wasn't necessary, which Meryl and Matt called iconic from the book. And it's not that it's not something you don't remember from the book, but it has a purpose in the book, and in the show it had no purpose. So why?
Brittany put terrible. Like, meet Joe Black getting hit by the car. Like,
okay, first of all, I love that movie.
But it was that moment you go, oh God, like eventually they're gonna make GIFs of that moment where, and then they put them with like memes where they say like, when you find out your child has another 3 weeks of distance learning, stuff like that. It's not.
Lachey just said they could have cut it completely. I mean, you could watch this episode with no buffalo in the paddock or in the front yard, and it would have been exactly the same. Nothing would change and nothing would matter.
It would have actually been more badass if Bree said, come like to the buffalo, tempted the buffalo, and then ran, and then Claire shot it, and then Bree killed it with the, that would have been amazing.
Yeah. And this killed me too. No one mentions Jamie crawling outside. Like at the very least, like he could have hurt the wound more. It could have been the catalyst for making the wound reinfected. Like do something with the fact that he did that, or don't do it. The whole thing just silly, unbelievable.
It was dumb.
So let's
back to the mythical hand job.
Yes. So in this, there's this aspect to the books that I think when you're reading it, your mind kind of, at least my mind kind of clouds over some of the woo-woo part of what Diana is writing. It happens when Claire heals Jamie in the Abbey. In the first book, and it happens again here, where there's something about Claire's aura as a healer and as a time traveler that allows her to have this mystical power over his healing. I don't know if it happens all of the time. I mean, obviously there are things that she can't control. I mean, they lost their baby. There's all kinds of things that she can't do, but there is something about their bond and her ability to heal him that's meant to be, I think, based on my not very scientific outlook on these books, it's meant to be mystical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's Stevie to his Lindsay. Absolutely.
She does things that...
She's what?
That was a Fleetwood Mac reference for all you.
Okay.
Got it.
I haven't listened to rumors in a while. All right.
This was me going, is that a Game of Thrones thing? I don't get it. I don't watch it. So there we go.
Andy just said you haven't read further, but it's a really bigger deal in books 7 and 8. Okay, so I'm not wrong. Thanks.
Right.
Good to know.
My issue. Oh, somebody's asking me what the chapter is. Hold on. It'll take a while.
It's in the 90s.
It's 91.
Yeah.
It's 91. My issue with this is in the book, there's one line, and it says, and all she says is, I couldn't hear his heartbeat. That's it. That's all she says in the book as the narration. And they took that one line for me and they blew it up to where the point where she's hysterical. And she's very calm in the scene. Actually, if you read the scene, I reread the scene. I literally grabbed my book and reread the scene. Because I'm like, I don't remember her being this hysterical. Taking off her shift, doing everything like.
Well, that didn't bother. None of that bothered me. Like her taking off her shift makes sense because he says I'm cold. And so she's trying to warm him up. And her not hearing his heartbeat looks right. Everything looks right to me about it. It's just, it's very weird to see her shoulder moving, giving him a hand job, which is what is happening. And then for him to do this like gas.
And that's it.
And her to just climb on top, like he doesn't need a cleanup. He doesn't need a towel. They're just going to stick to his torso for the rest of the night.
Did we watch
the breath went out of him in a long sigh. I was just thinking more of like there's my wiener.
We watch the same show. What are you not agreeing
with?
I'm
looking at I'm reading. Like I'm reading it and it was this.
No, Karen just said, are we watching the same show? And I want to know why you're not agreeing with me.
No, Julie, I'm not disagreeing with you at all on what's in the books. The way Beth just described it, it makes it seem like it's a 15 or 20-second section in this scene. It's like a second and a half. There's nothing to clean up.
Yeah, she literally
You think that the hand job should
happened?
Do you think the hand job should have taken the actual amount of time that it would have taken a man like Jamie Fraser to get hard and come?
I'm just saying this. The first thing I would have probably done as a medical professional is done chest compressions. You don't hear somebody's heartbeat, you do chest compressions.
Jamie asks her to touch him, right?
Yeah.
And she does. My daughter just walked in and is disgusted, by the way.
Sorry. Sorry. It was ridiculous. It was literally like 1, 2, 3. He literally did that.
Okay, but
it was weird.
Okay.
I know Jack was coming in and out of the room and I was trying to do emails for work and everything, but I literally do not remember what you are saying happened, Beth.
You don't remember her giving him a hand job?
You don't remember that?
No, I remember her taking her shirt off. She's freaking out. He's cold. And she's like, oh shit. And she lays on top of him.
Yeah.
No, she lays on top of him, but she moves down, Karen, and her hand goes.
Her ear is on his sternum. And
listening.
Her hand is down and her shoulder is moving in the general.
She's giving him, she's resuscitating his little Fraser.
But in the book, it's more like, because we were making fun of it when we did the book club, and we were saying that it was the first time she probably diddled his taint, because she doesn't say anything about her giving him a hand job. That's what the reason it looks like a hand job is because of Katrina's choice with the shoulder. Okay. So what I think is funny is that in the book, it's just kind of like she's stimulating him in order to
revive him.
Yeah. In order to just comfort and all of that. But in the book, it feels like it's a little bit of ass play is all I'm saying. And in this, it felt like
in the book,
handy.
For me, in the book, it felt a lot more calmer, and it was just I slowly went down, reached down, and she doesn't actually. I have it right here.
Everybody just said it's a reach around in the book. He has his back to her in the book. Heidi and Brittany.
So I slid my hand over the slope of his belly and more slowly down, fingers parting the coarse, curly tangle, dipping low to cup the rounded shapes of him.
Yeah,
what he had was here. I stroked him with a thumb and felt him stir.
Why don't we all
so she's diddling his taint. No, I don't want to watch it again. It was bad enough the first time.
And his body seemed to grow heavier, sinking into the mattress as he relaxed. His flesh was like candle wax in my hand, smooth and silky as it warmed.
Okay, and so also, Lachey just has another point. She doesn't know he tried to die until the next morning.
Right.
And then Diane just says it was too short. They kept it short, so a lot of folks won't get that it was a hand job. A lot of folks on SM don't think it was a hand job. So I guess the problem is that there's the definition of what a hand job is. So I think that they were purposefully making it look like she gave him an actual hand job, and then his gasp awake is his climax. And then she gets on top of him and everything's fine. That's what I think they made it look like on screen.
Yeah, I do too. That's what I thought it was.
I think that it would have been, it's fine to look at it and think that she's just rubbing him wherever you want to think that is, even if it's around his wound or something. And his gasping awake is his return to his body. or his decision to not go into the tunnel or whatever. But either way, it's a weird scene.
It's a weird ass scene. It's just weird because for me, it looked like she panicked. She panicked and she's like, oh my God, I can't feel his heart. Instead of maybe going like this to his chest, she's like, hold on.
And then she gets on top of him and does that leg around him, which is a normal way to sleep with your significant other, right? Like that's totally normal. Mm-hmm. But he has a wound on that leg and you're just putting a lot of weight.
With maggots on it. There's maggots on that wound. It's not.
Jeanette just said the wound is on his right leg, but her leg is all the way across. She's on the left side, but her leg is over all the way. It's too much. It's too much.
Says she strips, mounts, and jerks. That's what she learned in medical school.
I don't have a problem with anything that she did in that scene to bring him back to life. I just have a problem with how vague it is. But I don't want it to be more explicit by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
I was uncomfortable in general. But I do think that the mystical nature of the way Claire heals him should actually be more pronounced. Mm-hmm. It would be interesting to see, which they didn't do it in season 1. They didn't show all of that like woo-woo. So like the mystical way in which she does things, I think is more interesting than just kind of the sexual connotations. I don't know.
I just thought it was a weird scene. I just didn't. It didn't sit well.
I thought it was beautiful.
I love.
Obviously, interpret it the way others did. I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought it was really well acted. I mean, kind of a cheap homage to a massive pop culture image at the end, but it is about man and woman being one. And not being able to live without the other. I mean, they almost made a yin and yang connection there, but it's a complete throwback to the John and Yoko Rolling Stone cover.
Yeah. I'm somebody who I love Claire and Jamie sex scenes. I just was like, I just didn't feel this. I just didn't feel it.
I didn't dislike it.
There's a sex scene, so maybe that's why.
Yeah. If I hadn't seen it or thought, oh, she's doing the diddling, like it would have been a perfect scene in my mind. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it. I like Jamie's gasping. I like the conversation. I mean, it's all like good for me. There's I don't know. There's something weird about the ambiguity of what they're doing. And then
Ayana's comment wins the night. You've got to put it up there online for everybody.
Do something. Get his balls out.
No, do it. Heal him.
Good job, Ayana. Good job.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I don't know.
Excuse me.
Good one. But yeah, it seems like everybody has kind of different feelings about it. Some people are uncomfortable. Some people liked it. Some people wanted it to be a little bit more in shadow. Oh no, Purely Music said it should have been shadow puppets. Sorry.
Dawn says it was better. It was a better sex scene than that stable. Everything's going to be a better.
Everything will always be better than that scene.
Lisa said it was pretty weird in the book. I didn't think the show version was worse. I always feel like the show version is a little bit worse than the book.
I think the show version was worse.
My imagination, I feel like, is always better than what they show, and the ones that they do show usually make me uncomfortable. But I don't think it was bad. Jana said it took her out of the scene. The tension, the emotion was gone.
Yeah, so I think we're getting different, different. Yeah. Michelle says we should have put this one in silent movie mode.
Oh no. No. Titles. I think there's just like a lot of, you could have taken it a lot of different ways, and obviously people did. Everything that I saw on the internet when everybody watched it was that they considered it a hand job scene, and that everybody liked it. I thought it was a hand job scene and thought it was just a little bit weird. Especially because I felt like in the book when I read it, it was more like her just trying to stimulate him maybe in a way he hadn't been stimulated before. So he'd be kind of like weirded out. You know what I mean? Like you try to goose somebody when they're sleeping on you the wrong way or whatever. You'd be like, you made my leg fall asleep. So you like
pinch
go
it.
for his asshole, so we'll move. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes you're just like, he's not getting off my leg. It fell asleep.
Okay.
Well, I think
out of the way.
So look, all of us, there was a gentleman that commented in the sections over here. Everyone knows Jamie's not going to die. Everyone knows he's not going to lose his leg, right? So the payoff in the books for us, and even when we read them over and over and over again, is that Jamie brings Claire back from the abyss. Claire always brings Jamie back from the abyss. We live for those moments. And Diana does a great job of bringing us to those moments in slightly different ways than the 18 different times it's happened in the last 8 books, right? Show readers are going to have a different experience, especially if they've never read the books. But the payoff wasn't the same because, you know, we kind of all knew it was going to happen, especially with the amputation scene. But I think the reason I liked this scene so much is because it's very intimate. It's shot very close, very tight shots.
Yeah.
It's dark. It's kind of gritty. It is a throwback to season 1 in Castle Leoch. I mean, so it looked and felt like canon, and it looked and felt like the original show that we fell in love with.
Yeah.
So I quite liked the scene a lot, whether it was a hand job or not. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was really well acted. And it almost gave us, you know, Beth, what you've said about this mystical kind of otherworldly connection that they have to each other. Her touching him, period, probably would have been enough for him to take that breath because he's whole when she's connected to him.
Yeah.
So I think these are the payoffs that we look for, and we can live through shitty episodes if we get 45 seconds like that.
Yeah. It's also, they've been doing a lot of like, it reminds me of season 1 when they're like playing with each other's hands in the rain. And he says, "Is it usual? What's between us?" And she says, "No, it's not usual." And they're just like, can't stop touching each other's hands. And in this scene, they couldn't stop touching one another's hands. And then when they have the conversation after he wakes up again, couldn't stop touching each other's hands. And so there is that, exactly that sense of like their connection is meant to be greater than Roger and Bree's and greater than everybody, you know, Marsley and Fergus's, so that there's a difference between what those characters are able to do for one another than what Jamie and Claire are able to do for one another.
Yep.
And see, but for me, like, I don't mean to be negative here, sorry. But like, I did like when he said, "Touch me," and she came right to the bed and she felt him and she was like, but then it just, I don't know. There was just this like that and the overreact. I didn't feel it. It felt like it took me out of it. I'm with Jana. It would have made more sense for Claire to be like, "Nope," and like hit the chest, or having that, just that sense of calm, like, "Okay, I'll touch you. Here we go." And then just being calm about it. And
I thought she was pretty calm. I did think
in the book, you thought she was calm in the scene. See, I didn't. Yeah. That was not my takeaway. But to agree to disagree, but
yes. Mary Lita said Katrina's acting was great as usual. I agree. I thought Sam did a good job too. And it was an interesting scene. Obviously, there's a lot going on, and we have a lot of opinions about it. So this is a good little conversation. If you guys are in the chat, thank you for telling us what you think about it. Somebody Dawn just said it was the Tom Cruise Far From Away gasp. That's it.
It was.
Yeah.
He literally went like that. That's all I could.
It also reminded me of Bella waking up with her eyes, vampire eyes, in Breaking Dawn. But, you know. Alicia Butler said, I mean, I was uncomfortable way before that, but then he gasped and I was like, oh, he came back to life.
Yeah. I was like, that's his O face.
Well, there's a reason the French call it the little death, y'all.
Yeah.
He's already dead.
Speaking of the French, we got a lot of French from César, and I was very happy with it. And again, it just highlights the fact that we have been shafted from a good amount of our French baby this whole season, and I'm very upset about all of that. This guy is very important to the show, and we should be seeing more of him. And Marsley had her baby. I guess that happened too in this episode.
Which it was like all of a sudden she's like, come over here, don't go. Like, so did she have it in the woods? Did she have
I don't know.
And all of a
there
sudden
has to be a reason for her having had it in this episode. Why not just have her have the baby by this episode, right? Like something has to be purposeful. The only thing I can think of is for her to be able to have the conversation with Claire, like, I'm glad you're going to be there as my ma.
Right. That was a great, but she wasn't there. That was the problem.
Right.
Oh, she wasn't there.
Missed.
So I'm thinking that something has to pay off next week for her to have had to have the baby in this episode.
Right, because the episode that kicks off the arc that we think is coming, that is actually in A Breath of Snow and Ashes and not in the Fiery Cross, Marcy is pregnant. She's at the malting shed, right?
Yes.
But it's not with this baby.
Yeah, it's Felicity.
Well, then where's Jermaine?
He's there.
Yeah, I thought he was there.
No, sorry. Was that the
Joni?
No, they remember they have a disabled child.
Heidi put probably because they aren't going to be in the episodes from here on out.
Oh, I did not Juliet, did I?
Where'd you go?
I don't know how all of that goes. I've read the malting shed section and what it looks like we're going to get next week on the beach and all of that. Even though I haven't read A Breath of Snow and Ashes. So I've read that and it still doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know what happened to you.
You're like,
sorry.
Yeah. But I just don't understand why, if they needed her to not be pregnant, why there wasn't just a she's had the baby by now moment. So I feel like there has to be a payoff with
you're saying a lot.
You're right. I am. It probably was just the first conversation, right? Like that conversation with Claire.
Actually probably filmed so much more than they actually end up using.
Right.
And they keep stuff in and we're like, well, that's a weird thing to plop in there because there's nothing before it or nothing after it. So I think that we are, we see from the screen, the screenplay that gets leaked every week, that there are scenes that are actually written and sometimes even shot that they just don't make it into the final cut. So I just have to assume that there was more with Marsley and Fergus.
Yes.
That gave us.
There had to be between the woods and her going to the bed, and there's a baby.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. But again, we're not seeing that. So I just don't know why it was necessary. I mean, I don't think she should have stayed pregnant, but
I would totally, I know everyone wants the Lord John spinoff. I would love a Fergus and Marcelly spinoff. I would love it. Just because they're great together. They're amazing together.
Fergus is, he's in the service of Jamie. And so
I know, but still, I would listen to that guy talk for hours.
They just need to utilize them a lot more than they do, period. That's kind of the whole thing. They need to do more of that.
And she's phenomenal. I'm telling you, she's the highlight of this season so far.
Yeah.
So does anybody have, you guys in the chat can also say this before we close up tonight. Does anybody have, there's 3 episodes left. We've been told we will be shocked by the finale. We do know that the beach and the malting shed and all of that is happening next week. And it looks like the abduction of some sort is happening next week. Do you guys have kind of an outline for what you think is going to happen in the next 3 episodes?
I think we get resolution on Bonnet. I think they all to the coast. I think that Marsley and Fergus opt to stay there because they ultimately make their lives in Wilmington. I think that all the Ridge shit happens. They all go back and they jump to a certain section of Breath of Snow and Ashes and sort of reignite the family feud, if you will, that sort of leads to the malting shed scene. And I don't think that Marsley is going to be there. I think Claire's going to be by herself.
Do you think we're going to get anything with the gold at Jacosta's at all?
No.
I don't think we will.
No. Okay.
Because she said it was lost. Or no, she said that she used it to build River Run.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but she's a liar. I mean,
I totally forgot how this book ended. Hold on. Sorry.
Andy says she thinks the next one is Bonnet. I agree. And
I think it is.
The abduction will be DG's episode. I think so too.
I think so too. Yep.
Yeah.
She said Diana talked about a birthday party for Jamie. I don't know what that's about.
I don't know.
Alicia said Bree, Roger, and Jimmy go through the stones in the finale. Oh, that doesn't happen in the books, right?
Or maybe they go to the stones, maybe not go through them, but go to them, and that's where it ends.
I think at the end of A Breath of Snow and Ashes, they do that somewhere in the Outer Banks, if I recall correctly, because Echo, they're already there. I think Echo. Oh, hi, dog.
That's Hazel.
Echo starts in the Highlands, I think, in like 1975 or whatever it is. So yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
They have to go. Man, that's a lot of ground to cover in the next 120 minutes.
Andy just said, wait. Andy just said, wait, did you guys see that EW said season 6 would be the final season?
Oh, that doesn't shock me one bit.
No. I was almost going to say, okay.
I think that will be the series finale when they go back. Like, so the end of season 6 will be this, when they all go back.
Of the show.
Yeah.
They keep on hinting on it. It's this whole thing of going back, and especially for the kids, and then Brianna saying, this whole episode, that was a great thing too, was Brianna trying to decide where she fits in regards to being an engineer and her skills. And
I think that there will be a moment in the finale where Bree is pregnant again, so that going into season 6 she'll be pregnant, or that when season 6 opens up she'll be fully pregnant enough so that she has the baby and Mandy is there, and Mandy's issues or whatever are evident enough so that they can go back by the end of season 6. But
they may not need an entire interlude.
Yeah.
If you read to the end of Written in My Own Heart's Blood, you'll understand what I mean. Well,
I just don't think that they're not going to make the show for that long. Right. I've never thought they were going to go past season 6.
Yeah. Purely amused. Got it. If season 6 ends it, then we wouldn't get any season 1 ghost payoff. Diana wouldn't give that away for the show, because everybody has always been asking about the ghost. There's
a little factoid about me. I don't care about the ghost. Like,
I'm shocked. I'm stunned. How could I not know this about you, Beth?
Guys, why is the ghost such a big deal? It's Jamie going back and seeing her where he knows she's going to be in the past. Like, what's the big deal? So he can like dream dance or whatever, like dream walk or something, and is it that big of a mystery? Is it that
ghost?
I mean, I get that, like, it'll probably be beautifully written and it'll be sad and lovely and bittersweet and in lots of ways, but like, I don't care. I mean,
Jana says Diana is 10 years away from writing the ghost payoff. So
wow.
Even if they include it, it doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah, like she and George Martin write at about the same pace.
Exactly. So
I think she writes a little bit faster than he does, but
right. So there we go.
I agree with Dawn. We should have gotten more Graham McTavish's Buck, so we can bring that one back.
There we go. Maybe that will be a spinoff.
I'm interested in these last 3 episodes. I hope they're really good. I think they will be, just because it'll be a lot of drama, and that tends to move things forward. But you never know. Sometimes it's drama and it's real boring. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. If you want to hear more about what we're doing right now, we've got some other stuff coming up, because Outlander is ending and we don't just put so much time and energy into it. We've got some new stuff for you guys to read and get into for new shows that are coming up. So you'll want to be a part of it. Join us tomorrow night, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, for another happy hour at the pool table. We will all be here, and we'll be talking about some of our favorite things that are going on right now and what's coming up. And Amy just asked, any gossip regarding Sam's statement? We will talk about tomorrow night. So that's your incentive to come. Tomorrow night is the hot gauze and how we feel about it. Tomorrow night, happy hour. Thank you guys for joining us. You guys have been great. And thank you for saying my Yorkie is cute. She's an absolute asshole. Good night.